What's up? What's up? Hey, beautiful, amazing friends, people, everyone. Welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you doing this video. Be sure to put your comments in the live chat and also in the comment section. We are going to talk today about pretty privilege. We're going to talk about it in terms of what it actually means. Like, do you have pretty privilege? And we're also going to look at MBTi types for those who love Myers-Briggs like I do. And we'll talk about, do certain types have pretty privilege? So let me know in the comments and in the live chat what you think. Do you think that certain Myers-Briggs types have pretty privilege, and why do you think that? And also, do you think you have pretty privilege? And this can go for guys too. Like, I guess we could replace it with handsome privilege, or I can't remember what the new phrase is, but you know, definitely put it in the comments below. You might hear me rattling my paper a little bit. Why? Because I wrote down some notes. There's nothing worse to me. I feel so irritated. Usually after every video, I think of something that I should have said, and it's super annoying. One time there was somebody in the comments, and it was okay. They said, "Oh, I can tell you're reading." Well, you know what? I don't always read things, but sometimes I will write down some things that I want to say, or if I have time, I'll even write it all out just for time's sake, for just to make things more concise. So I do a mixture. I think most of my videos, I do them freestyle, but it just really depends. Sometimes I need some notes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like some notes because it helps me to stay on topic, and it helps me not to forget things that I wanted to say. So I'm just going to say up front, we're talking about pretty privilege here. And so this could be a little controversial. There might be some things that I say that upset some people, or they might think, who do you think you are? How dare you say that? You don't have the right to say that. And I think the more I do these videos, the more I feel like speaking my mind, although I do censor myself a lot. I think to a certain degree, we all have to be politically correct and try to respect each other as much as possible. So it's not about respecting or disrespecting. It's about feeling this need to say things perfectly or say what you want me to say. And I'll try to do that to a certain extent, but I really want to speak my truth on some things in this video. So let's first talk about Myers-Briggs types. Do you think that there are some Myers-Briggs types that quote unquote have pretty privilege? You know, there are some, I've seen some people try to say that certain types look a certain way. Like certain types, their body shapes or their eye shape or just different things like that, and how they look similar. And that's super interesting, really interesting. And there may be some validity to that. I mean, why couldn't there be? I mean, I think anything is possible. And if people have the patience to figure that out, that's so cool, you know? But are some types in general more attractive physically than other types? Do you think that your personality plays a role in how you look? I think it does. I think if you have a still shot of someone, and you're in a room full of people and you're listening to a lecture, if you can look at the person, and I'm not good at this, even though I'm an ENFJ, I'm the world's worst with this, because I could look at a person and I can think they're going to be one way, and they usually are a completely different way. They start talking, and all of a sudden they look different. Sometimes they can look prettier when they start to express themselves, and sometimes they can look uglier. And I'm going to use the word uglier because it's quicker to say than less attractive. But politically correct, I really do mean less attractive, because they could be super handsome and then that you start interacting and it's like, they're not looking as good anymore. So I do think that someone's personality definitely can play a role in how you perceive that they look. But do you personally, have you noticed any types that seem to be consistently attractive to you? And I know attraction is subjective to a certain degree. Attractive can also be culturally defined and determined. So when you're within a culture, there are certain features that most people think are beautiful or that most people want. And if you're not in that culture, you may not understand those things. But I do think there are some global traits and features and looks that people tend to think are considered more attractive than others. And I don't know if it's because we've been conditioned to think those things. Maybe if the world started all over, then there would be a different standard of beauty. But what do you think? Do you think beauty is completely subjective, or do you think that the majority of people are going to deem certain people attractive and certain people not? So as far as MBTi types, if you take pretty and you change it to most appealing or most wanted or most popular or most, which types garner the most curiosity, are there certain types that do that? I think the answer to that is yes. So I think from that frame of reference, I do think that certain Myers-Briggs types have pretty privileges. I remember I felt like she got upset with me in the comment section. If you're watching, hi, because I think she's actually pretty cool. But I could see her point of view. But she actually got upset with me because she wanted to know why I wasn't making more ESFJ videos, ISFJ videos, more videos of other Myers-Briggs types. And that's such a valid point. If you look at my videos, you will see I've done videos on every single type. There is not one type that I have left out. And there are some, what is the word of it? How do you say not to diss? That might be kind of old. I don't know, but not to diss other YouTubers that do Myers-Briggs, but there are a lot of them that don't cover every type. They mostly focus on one or two. And it might be because they don't know much about the other types. That's okay. You know, everybody has their own thing. I feel like I have an understanding of all the types. Maybe not in the same way. I've done a video on that where I explain my point of view on how I look at each type is different from the typical standard person that does this or looks at it. This kind of happened accidentally in a way. But my answer to that commenter was, you know, I would love to do more videos on ESFJs, ESTPs, you know, other MBTI types. But there are some Myers-Briggs types in the MBTI world that have developed pretty privilege. And if I do videos on the types that don't have pretty privilege, then it seems like not many people watch it. And unfortunately, I don't have time to make videos that nobody's going to watch or that very few people are going to be interested in. So is that fair? Probably not at all. I mean, I feel bad. I would love to give more attention to other types. But if no one is going to watch it, then why am I doing it? Now, if I had more time, if I didn't have a full-time job, then maybe I could do that. But because my time is limited and, you know, video space and editing and all the things that you have to do to videos, I'm just not going to spend my time that way. I can't do it. But is it fair? No. Now, which types do I think have pretty privilege? I think INFJs have pretty privilege. I think INTJs have pretty privilege. In my opinion, and I could be wrong, but it seems like in the Myers-Briggs world, and maybe that's changing, but it felt like when I first started doing this, that those two types probably got the most, quote unquote, pretty privilege of the group. And in fact, I didn't totally feel this way. I am an ENFJ, so I probably understand ENFJs more than I do any other type because I'm living it every day. So, but at the same time, and some people might say, oh, you're just jealous of INFJs. But I just felt like some of the attention that INFJs were getting, I just felt like, what about ENFJs? Do people not realize? And that was my first MBTI video. And I didn't do it because of that, but I did feel like I'm not hearing everything there is to know about an ENFJ. And so my first ENFJ video has done incredibly well. I mean, at this point, it has over 50,000 views, but it's because I was able to point out things that I just didn't hear people saying. Like the intuitive level of an ENFJ is incredible. Not to brag, but I mean, even as a little girl, I always had this knowingness, and it was really frustrating because people would say things in front of me, do things in front of me, not realizing just how aware that I was of their truth, aware of things about them that they didn't know. And I could go on and on about that. But, you know, that said, pretty privilege is not always fair. But I do think people are super curious about those two types, or at least they used to seem to be. They want to be those types, probably even more so the INTJ, which, you know, I've heard INTJs out in the world say, well, you know, I wasn't ever that popular, but you are in Myers-Briggs world. You really are. So it's just interesting. People will mistype and be those types. But I do think that the other types that have pretty privilege are ENTPs, ENFJs, ENTJs, INTPs, INFPs, who else? Please don't let me forget any, because I don't want anybody to be upset. I think there is an interest in like the ESTJ. I think I think they can be kind of polarizing. So I think people are really, that one is one that I would put up there. I think people have watched my ISTJ videos. I feel like I have something to say about them. And then I will say, I think ENFPs are also very popular, but for some reason, I would do a lot more ENFP videos, but I feel like they don't watch my videos as much, or maybe they're not as interested in MBTI. I'm not sure. I think in the real world, ENFPs are very popular, are very liked. I think people find them extremely attractive in the walking human ENFP. I do. I think they are very sought after, looked at highly. I think people find them easy to engage with, flirty, just all of that. But unfortunately, I think in MBTI world, the types that definitely, well, I don't even know if I should say it. I won't even say it. Well, basically the SP types and the SJ types don't seem to get as much love, but I have done videos on them because I want to highlight their gifts and the wonderful, amazing things about them. It's not that. It's just if people aren't going to watch it, I'm not going to make it. So what do you guys think? Do you think certain MBTI types have pretty privilege in the MBTI world? And why do you say that? Do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you think there's a different reason? And do you think it's not true at all, that I'm just making this up? I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about pretty privilege. Have you heard this phrase, pretty privilege? It's the new buzzword. It's going around. It's starting to become more prevalent in YouTube videos and on Instagram, and where people are saying this person has pretty privilege. I've even heard of some people who are on Instagram bragging that they have pretty privilege. That's kind of a new one for me. But what do you guys think? Do you think there's a such thing as pretty privilege? And my understanding, because this is new to me, pretty privilege is you get more advantages in life if you're attractive. You're going to have more guys attracted to you if you're a woman. If you're a guy, you're going to have more women that are attracted to you, which I've heard that in male circles, they more so base it on what's your status, what's your economic status. And that really puts pressure, I think, on men in a different way. I think men have always felt that sort of pressure to be successful, to be a provider, to be a protector. But all of a sudden, now we're using phrases to say, you know, you're a certain type of man if you have reached this level of success, versus they call it a high value man. That's what this guy calls them. And so that really puts a lot of pressure on them. They don't like it. But then women don't, I mean, it's kind of the same thing with pretty privilege. I think that phrase in itself is very controversial, but I definitely think there's some truth to it. But then I think depending on who's wearing the shoes, the opinion or the viewpoint or the lens can change. And I'm trying to handle this delicately because the pretty privilege thing is extremely hurtful to some people. They don't like it. They don't think it's fair. They feel like their lives have been, will never be what they could be because they didn't get that type of privilege. So they may think, I heard someone who made a video, and sorry, my lawn is being mowed, but I heard someone who was really upset made a video on it because she felt like, you know, men don't open doors for me, or they are not gonna. She talked about how when she walked into a restaurant, none of the men turned their heads, but when her friend walked in the door, all the men turn their heads. The problem, and this is going to sound really shallow probably, the problem that I had with her video was, is your friend with pretty privilege okay with you using her as an example in your video? How would that make the friend who's simply being your friend? Why? Probably because she likes you. You get along, you have a lot in common, you click, you laugh together, you're bonded. So would your friend be okay with you talking about her in that light? Some people might say, well, she's getting a compliment, so why wouldn't she? But I think some of that can also be hurtful, because even though people who don't feel like they have pretty privilege, and this is me trying to be objective, the people who do not have pretty privilege feel like it's okay for me to isolate you and put you down in a way and set you aside and say, you know, you're getting all of these things because of the way that you look. They think that that is acceptable. But I think in friendship world, I would say that's not acceptable. Because I think a friend is a friend is a friend. And a friend is someone that you can trust, that you care about, that you can rely on, depend on, laugh with, that cares about your feelings and your problems. And I think when you put your friend in a... I mean, everyone has a right to their feelings. I understand that maybe she experienced some hurt based on the way she perceives herself to look, because that's what the whole video was on. So, and it wasn't about, you know, I think as a society, we're all judgy. And I don't think that everyone receives fair treatment. I don't. And it may be even difficult to give fair treatment because of the way that our society is built. So I'm thinking about, if you have someone who's wealthy versus someone who's poor, how do you level that playing field? That person will say, I did not have the same privileges as a wealthy person. That's a fact. It's a fact. And you might have someone who's poor working a lot harder than someone who's wealthy because it could have just been inherited. But then there could be some wealthy people who are working extremely hard. So I think all of these can be touchy subjects, but I think the pretty part is subjective. But what do you think? In our society, do we consider certain people to be attractive and certain people to not be attractive? What do you think? Like, is there a census on who's attractive and who's not? Do you think that certain people get treated better because of the way that they look? Yeah, so I was watching some videos and I heard some people say some pretty harsh things. Like, they were using words like ugly. Like I heard a guy say, some people are ugly, and that's the truth. And I thought, oof, ouch. That kind of hurt to hear. And he said, well, most people will lie and say that everyone is beautiful, and that's not true. But his point was that people who are considered pretty are going to have a harder time than people who are considered average. And that even sometimes attractive women will have a harder time getting a really good mate. Why? Because they're probably going to go after an attractive man. That attractive man is also attracting a lot of women, and those women are going to keep chasing him even when women, even when he's taken or he's married. They're going to have to contend with that because more women want that super successful, good looking guy. And I also heard another guy say that women with pretty privilege, they have average friends. This is what he said, not me. I'm just thinking this over because I keep seeing this whole pretty privilege thing and I'm trying to unfold it. And I would love your feedback on how you view this whole topic that seems to be blowing up everywhere. But he said that a pretty girl thinks that she's helping her friends, like she's being a good friend. And to a certain extent, they can't stand her. They're threatened by her because they're not as pretty. And pretty privileged women envy them. And this was interesting to me as well. That he said that men can resent a woman with pretty privilege because it symbolizes all the rejection that they've received in their life. And, you know, I don't know. So, I don't know. Tell me your opinion. I know that some of that sounds kind of harsh. It sounds kind of harsh to me as well, but I'm kind of taking it all in. One of the things I remember years ago seeing an Oprah interview, and she interviewed, a really pretty woman and a really handsome man. And she finally told them, just say it, that you know that you're pretty. You know you're good looking. Just say it. And they said, yeah, and if we say that, society will destroy us. We cannot, that is unacceptable in our society. We just can't say that. I think when you start to treat people in a way, especially friends, or people that have the potential to be your friend, in a judgmental way based on how they look, I think everybody can get hurt in that situation. Everybody can get their feelings hurt. Everybody can have their egos crushed. I think from the perspective of someone, like if someone has what's deemed pretty privilege, there will be a lot of confusion. Because I think those people can get treated in ways that they don't understand either. And they wonder, oh, why is this person hating me when I didn't do anything to them? I've been extremely nice. I've been extremely kind. And yet it's like, oh, well, I'm going to leave you out because I don't like you. And it's based on how they look. So as far as the men's perspective, I was watching a video where they said that sometimes men don't like pretty women either on a subconscious level, and they start to project a lot of negative emotions that they have because of their pain and their generalizations, and they put it all on that pretty quote unquote woman. And some guys will hate them for no reason. They will sleep with them and then treat them like dirt because they really want to put them down because they represent what was, their own rejection or not being able to get the prettiest girl all the time. And I will say that I knew someone who was in a work situation where they had a male boss. And when they walked in, it was like, give her everything she wants. And then as time went on, it was like the male boss, who I think found the woman attractive, started to talk to her like, I will break you down, expletive, you know? And then it was sort of a, you don't speak to me until spoken to, and I'm just, every opportunity that I have, you can agree with me and I'm going to destroy you. It's not going to make any sense. And so then this person with quote unquote pretty privilege is getting mistreated and doesn't understand why, because they're doing everything that they're asked to do. It's sort of a, well, I can't have you, and so I'm going to destroy you, and you represent what I didn't get. So that guy's explanation of projection and all of that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because it doesn't make sense. So I think this whole pretty privilege thing, I think, yes, we can have empathy for anyone who feels that they haven't been treated fairly, or they haven't had the door held for them, or whatever, because, or they've been rejected by the opposite sex because they don't feel like they're attractive, or that they've had to work harder with their personality to make that shine because they don't look at themselves as attractive, because they don't have the same features or qualities of other people in their cultural group or in their country or whatever it is. I think we can have empathy and be good listeners, and definitely not, you wouldn't want anyone who feels that way about themselves to feel bad about themselves. It feels sad to hear, but I don't think it's okay for someone to mistreat another person because they think that person looks better than they do. I don't think that that's okay. I don't think that that's fair. Just like the YouTube video that I saw where the girl was talking about that she didn't have pretty privilege, and that she walked into a restaurant and all the, none of the guys turned and looked at her. Then her friend walked in a few minutes later and all the men turned and looked at her. I could understand that being hurtful, but at the same time, my thoughts were, is your friend okay with you putting that story in your video? Or would she find that to be hurtful, isolating, like you think it's okay to say whatever you want to because you think that your friend is prettier than you? That in friendship world does not feel good. That in coworker world or any type of circle, that does not feel good either. And I whatever you want to call me, I don't know. I don't even know if I should put myself in it, but I've definitely had situations where I've had people to tell me, oh, well, you wouldn't understand. I recently had a situation where I was in a new situation and someone came up to me and said, you have some haters here because of the way that you look. And I did not take that well, honestly, because it made me feel like, okay, anytime you're in a new place, you want to fit in, you want to make connections, you already feel a little insecure because you don't know anyone. And to keep it clarified some things, because I felt like, why are certain people treating me a certain way and they don't know me at all? That does not feel good. So it's like now you're getting punished, but you didn't do anything wrong. So I think this whole pretty privilege thing, I think if we're going to discuss it, I think everyone needs a say. I don't think I think we have to be careful and we have to handle it delicately and with respect. But I do not think it's okay to disrespect or treat poorly someone who looks the way you wish you looked. For one thing, you're elevating that person and they may not even deserve it. You know, character plays a big role. I think how hard a person works. Are you a humanitarian? Do you care about other people? What is your value system? I think that even though we can be shallow as a society, I think those things also have to hold greater weight than judging someone based on looks. I heard someone say, well, those people, people who have those features, they don't understand what it's like, to have to work hard. And I just thought, wow, I think that's unfair. I think whether you have pretty privilege or you quote unquote don't, because I think everyone can have pretty privilege to us. I mean, I don't know. Never mind. This YouTuber said that attractive girls have more insecurities than average looking girls. And so, I don't know. Just curious. I think this is a little, one of those controversial topics that I just keep, it's kind of it's kind of a new thing to me. And so I just want to hear your opinion. What do you think of pretty privilege? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's unfair? Do you think it's true? Do you think it's not true? Do you think it's something that people are just creating to stir something up? Or do you think something needs to be done about it? Someone was talking about Kylie Jenner. They were judging her based on how she looked before, how she looks now, how she went through all those procedures or whatever to look the way that she does now. And do you think that you can change how you look based on what you wear, wearing makeup, how you carry yourself, your personality? Do you think all of those things can play a role? I mean, I think, no matter what, I think we can all make ourselves look unattractive. I mean, I definitely think there are times when I'm totally unattractive. I mean, because of, I just am very super comfortable, just, mismatched clothes. I just want to feel comfortable. I'm not, and I don't think that I definitely think I'm more attractive when I wear nice clothes or when I put on makeup. And that's just me. I like to present in that way. And maybe that's shallow too. Some people say you shouldn't have to wear makeup. You should be who you are. And there's this whole natural look thing too. That's also as popular as wearing makeup is. I think to each his own. But yeah, I know this is a little one of those topics. It was a little hard for me to talk about. A little harder than I expected. Because I think no matter where you fall on the spectrum, bottom line is everyone has experienced some level of hurt. And sometimes maybe we need to speak our truths. But I think no matter what, I think everyone should treat each other with respect, with kindness, with love. And, I think if somebody is rude, disrespectful, mean to people, cruel, say whatever they want, and it's hurtful to people, I think that's ugly, and I don't think that that's okay. Regardless of pretty privilege or not, on either side of the spectrum, quote unquote, you're going to have good people and you're going to have bad people. You're going to have nice people and you're going to have mean people. But I think we have to show each other kindness. So I'm really curious about your thoughts and opinions. What have you heard about this whole pretty privilege thing? Where do you feel like you fall? Do you feel comfortable saying that you have pretty privilege, or that people believe you have pretty privilege? And how has that impacted your life? All right, well, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for your thoughts, and any feedback that you give is much appreciated. And I will see you guys on the next video. And thanks for watching. I really do appreciate your love and support. I feel it all the time, and it just makes my day. So thanks, guys. Bye-bye.